Welcome everyone here to Billy Parish Church for the second Sunday in Lent. Jesus said, consider the birds. And indeed I want us this Sunday to consider the birds. I want us to consider, it was in the news only recently, a lonely little penguin who got washed up in the coast of Western Australia. And he's a northern rockhopper penguin. And there aren't any other northern rockhopper penguins in Australia. So through the wonders of technology, just like you're seeing me here at the minute, Edinburgh Zoo has got more than 100 penguins, and so he is now getting a podcast and a video cast of all his friends from Edinburgh Zoo to keep him from being lonely. Genuine news story, folks, which I think is absolutely wonderful, and apparently he very much enjoys watching his brethren and his sisters in Edinburgh, and also apparently they're also broadcasting him Pingu, and you'll know that Pingu is a little cartoon penguin. And if you don't know who Pingu is, stop watching the news and tune on to CBeebies, is all I shall say. That's a little true news story. Another news story that's a little bit sadder is the story of the gairfowl. Have you heard of a gairfowl? Sometimes known as the great auk. No, the reason why you haven't heard of them is because they died out in about 1844. They were hunted by fishermen and hunted by human beings, and they used to live on the Orkneys and the Faroes and the lonely coasts of the North Atlantic and in Iceland and in Newfoundland. And they were very tame, very timid little creatures, and like their cousins, the penguins who live in the southern hemisphere, they swam most of the time, and therefore didn't have very big wings because they never flew. They swam everywhere and then waddled everywhere, and sadly that meant they were far too easy to catch, and sadly they were wiped out, made extinct in 1844. That's very sad, because their little nickname that sailors used to call them were pinwings, because their wings were so small, and from pinwing do we get the word penguin. So there you go. So yes, there used to be penguins in the northern hemisphere, in the Arctic, as well as in the Antarctic. Now, penguins have a hard life, you know. I mean, if you think our lockdown is difficult, the poor penguins have to huddle together and shelter together in the terrible winter blizzard conditions of the Antarctic for months and months on end. And it is not an easy job to do. Is it, penguins? No, it's not exactly. Consider Mr. Penguin. He's as smart as he can be, dressed in his dinner clothes permanently. You can never tell when you see him about if he's just coming in or just going out. Are you going in and out, penguins? I think that's a yes to both. Now, one of the greatest gifts, and I hope nobody is giving up this gift for Lent, is sleep. I think we could all probably do with more sleep. And Mr. Penguin especially is blessed with the gift of being able to sleep, because Mrs. Penguin does all the fishing and the diving. Isn't that right, Mrs. Penguin? Off you go. Off she goes to get some fish, and Mr. Penguin looks after the egg. And he keeps the penguin egg right under him. And now, wouldn't it be awful to be entrusted with something when you were sleeping? So how does Mr. Penguin manage to sleep? Because every creature sleeps. Everything in creation sleeps. How does he keep that egg safe? And how does he stay with the other penguins when he sleeps? Well, God gave the penguins a great gift, because Mr. Penguin has been taught from only when he was a little toy penguin to rock back and forward. You see that? That's how he sleeps. He sleeps rocking back and forward, and that motion, along with all the others, because they all huddle, all the male penguins, all the men penguins, all huddle together for heat. And also they let the ones that are in the outer bit near the weather, they let them in, so everybody gets their share of the heat of the huddle of the penguin, and they're all rocking back and forward. It's almost a very prayerful motion to be rocking back and forward, and in that way the egg is kept hot, and Mr. Penguin is able to keep alert enough, even when he's sleeping, to know what he's doing. Isn't that wonderful? What a wonderful gift God gave to Mr. Penguin to do that. Now, has Mrs. Penguin caught anything? Oh, you see, you let them go and they go away off and never come back. I would know, indeed, yes. So she's away doing. Oh, she is. Did you get anything? Oh, poor fishing today. Right, okay. Terrible. Well, sleep is indeed God's good gift to us. Psalm 127, verse 2, God's gifts come to his loved ones in their sleep. And of course, we should never go to bed without commending ourselves to God, commending our souls to God, and maybe asking for the guardianship and of our guardian angel, and to settle ourselves down to sleep, ready and refreshed to wake the next morning to do whatever God may wish us to do. Bishop Thomas Cain wrote a wonderful hymn, and it was to be sung morning and night. Glory to thee, my God, this night, for all the blessings of the light. For may my soul in thee repose, and may sweet sleep mine eyelids close, sleep that may me more vigorous make, to serve my God when I awake. Absolutely. So, penguins happy? Very good. Well, before we leave the penguins, still considering the birds, I want to tell you a story of a very funny old man who kept a whole menagerie. He kept an aviary. He had 2 eagles to tame, he had 2 hares to keep from running away, 2 hawks to manage, and a serpent to control, and a lion to chain. And of course, nobody believed him when he told them of this aviary and menagerie that he kept. But he then went on to explain, the 2 eagles were his 2 eyes, which he diligently had to guard lest they should lead him to harm. The 2 hares were his 2 feet, which he had to hold back lest he run into evil. The 2 hawks were his 2 hands, which he had to train for doing good work. The serpent with his tongue, which he had to keep as with a horse with a bridle. And the lion was his heart, with which he had to continually struggle to keep it free from evil ways. So indeed, we do pray in the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So I think we need to thank Mr. and Mrs. Penguin. Would they like to reveal their real identities? My goodness, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? So now we all know a little bit more about penguins, and indeed, maybe we should, because I noticed the birds are beginning to, they're looking for branches, and I noticed they're poking things moss out of the ground. We could do worse, and as Jesus said, consider the birds. We'll see you soon.